Milo had no idea he was about to become the most terrifying thing in the room. He was too busy napping inside his carrier bag, dreaming about the red laser that always escaped him. His owner, Ben Wheeler, walked through the curved hallways of the Galactic Academy of Interspecies Studies with the carrier hanging from his shoulder. Ben was 28 years old, a former wildlife biologist from Earth, and completely unaware that every alien he passed was quietly panicking that a group of small, rabbit-like Fenari students pressed themselves against the wall as he walked by. A tall Morvani reptilian crossed to the other side of the corridor. Even the cleaning drones seemed to give him extra space. Ben just smiled and waved at everyone. Friendly guy, that Ben. He found Classroom 7 Delta and stepped inside. The room was shaped like a half circle, with curved desks rising upward like a small stadium. About 30 students of various species were already seated. At the front stood Professor Dwin, a hollery, tall, thin, with 4 arms and large compound eyes that reflected the light like black mirrors. Every single conversation stopped when Ben entered. "Ah," Professor Dwin said, her voice slightly higher than normal. "You must be the human exchange student." "That's me," Ben said cheerfully. He found an empty seat in the 3rd row, right next to a small Fenari with soft gray fur and enormous ears. She looked like she might faint. "I'm Ben," he said to her. "What's your name?" "Arilla," she squeaked. "Nice to meet you, Rilla." Rilla nodded very quickly and said nothing else. Her paws were trembling. On Ben's other side sat a large, slug-like Gelden with glistening purple skin. He looked at Ben with obvious suspicion. "I am Boro," the Gelden said. "I have read about your species. You are from a Class 7 Death World. Earth?" "Yeah, I guess it's a bit rough," Ben admitted. "But it's home." "A bit rough," Boro repeated flatly. "Your planet has active volcanoes, deadly radiation from your sun, apex predators in every environment, and you breathe a gas that is literally combustible." Ben shrieked. "When you put it that way, it does sound pretty wild." Professor Dwin cleared her throat and raised all 4 of her arms for attention. The class fell silent. "Today we begin our unit on apex predators," she announced. "Specifically, we will discuss why true apex predators cannot be domesticated by sentient species." She tapped her datapad, and a holographic display appeared showing various predatory creatures from across the galaxy. Massive beasts with claws and fangs and too many eyes. "The neurological requirements for domestication are very specific," Professor Dwin explained. "An apex predator's brain is wired for hunting, for killing, for survival. These instincts cannot be overwritten. Every civilization that has attempted to tame such creatures has failed. Many have lost lives in the process." She looked around the room. "This is a universal truth. No species has ever successfully domesticated a true apex predator." Ben raised his hand. Professor Dwin's compound eyes locked onto him. "Yes, Mr. Wheeler?" "Sorry, Professor, but I don't think that's entirely accurate." The room went very still. "Excuse me," Professor Dwin said. "I actually brought proof," Ben said. He reached down and began unzipping his carrier bag. Every student in the room tensed. Rilla ducked under her desk. Boro's purple skin turned pale. Even Professor Dwin took a step backward, her 4 arms raised defensively. "Mr. Wheeler," she said carefully, "what exactly is in that bag?" "Just my cat," Ben said. "His name is Milo. He's super friendly, I promise." He pulled out an orange tabby cat. 4 years old, slightly overweight, with half-closed eyes and an expression of pure boredom. Milo yawned widely, showing his small sharp teeth, then blinked slowly at the room full of terrified aliens. Nobody moved. Professor Dwin's datapad beeped frantically as it scanned the creature. Her eyes went wide. "Terran Felidae," she whispered. "Ambush predator. Retractable claws. Night vision. Hunting success rate of 90%. "Yeah, that's Milo," Ben said, scratching the cat behind his ears. "He's a good boy." "That creature," Boro said slowly, "is one of the most efficient killers in the known galaxy." Ben looked down at Milo, who was now licking his own paw with zero interest in anything else. "Him," Ben said. "Nah, he's just a lazy house cat. He sleeps like 18 hours a day." Conserving energy between hunts, Professor Dwin said faintly. Classic ambush predator behavior. Rilla peeked out from under her desk. Does it kill things? I mean, sometimes he catches bugs, Ben said. And one time he brought me a dead bird. But mostly he just knocks things off tables for fun. The class exchanged horrified glances. Professor Dwin lowered her arms slowly. Mr. Wheeler, are you telling me that humans keep these creatures as companions? Yeah, of course. There are like 600 million cats on Earth. Someone in the back row made a sound like they might be sick. Milo, completely unaware of the chaos he was causing, spotted something interesting. A small cleaning drone hovering near the ceiling, its lights blinking softly. His ears perked forward. His pupils narrowed into thin black slits. His whole body went very, very still. Oh, Ben said. Rilla saw the cat's expression change. What is happening? What is it doing? He's locked onto something, Ben said. That's his hunting look. The entire class followed Milo's gaze to the innocent little drone floating near the lights. Milo's hindquarters wiggled. Everyone stay calm, Professor Dwin said, though she herself was backing toward the door. Milo launched himself from Ben's arms like an orange missile. The screaming started immediately. The cleaning drone never stood a chance. One moment, it was floating peacefully near the ceiling, doing its simple job of collecting dust particles. The next moment, 4 kilograms of orange fury exploded through the air and snatched it like a toy. Milo twisted in midair with impossible grace. His claws punched through the drone's metal shell as if it were made of paper. Sparks flew. Circuits crackled. The drone let out one sad electronic beep before going completely dark. Milo landed on all 4 paws without making a sound. The classroom had erupted into chaos. Students were climbing over each other to reach the exits. Rilla had pressed herself so far under her desk that she was nearly invisible. Boro had somehow squeezed his large, slug-like body behind a potted plant. Professor Dwin stood frozen at the front of the room, all 4 of her arms raised in surrender. Only Ben remained calm. Milo, no, he said with a tired sigh. That wasn't a toy. The cat looked up at him with wide, innocent eyes. Then he picked up the broken drone in his mouth and trotted back to Ben, dropping it at his feet with obvious pride. He brought you the corpse, Professor Dwin whispered. The predator brought you its kill as an offering. Yeah, he does this, Ben said, picking up the destroyed drone. Sorry about this. I'll pay for the replacement. He just gets excited sometimes. Excited, Boro repeated from behind his plant. The apex predator got excited. Slowly, very slowly, the panic began to fade. Students stopped pushing toward the doors. A few brave ones returned to their seats, though they kept their eyes fixed on the orange cat who was now sitting calmly and licking his paw. Rilla crawled out from under her desk. Her enormous ears were pressed flat against her head. It killed the drone so fast. I did not even see it move. Cats are ambush hunters, Ben explained casually. They can accelerate really quickly when they want to. But honestly, Milo is pretty lazy most of the time. He just saw something flying and his instincts kicked in. Professor Dwin stepped closer, though she kept a safe distance from the cat. Her scientific curiosity was beginning to overcome her fear. Mr. Wheeler, you said earlier that cats domesticated themselves. Can you explain what you mean? Ben sat down, and Milo immediately jumped into his lap, curling into a ball and closing his eyes like he had not just destroyed a piece of school property. Sure, Ben said, stroking Milo's fur. So, thousands of years ago, humans started farming. We stored grain in big buildings. But grain attracts mice and rats, small animals that eat our food and spread disease. The class listened in terrified fascination. Wildcats figured out that wherever humans lived, there were lots of easy prey animals to hunt. So they started hanging around human settlements. We got free pest control, and they got easy meals. Over time, the cats that were friendlier toward humans had more babies, and eventually we ended up with domestic cats. So the predators chose to live with you, Professor Dwin said slowly. They decided humans were useful. Pretty much, yeah. Boro finally emerged from behind his plant, his purple skin still pale. And the humans just allowed this? You let an apex predator move into your homes. We thought it was cute, Ben said with a shrug. The class stared at him in disbelief. Cute, Rilla repeated. The Death Worlder thought the killer was cute. I mean, look at him. Ben held up Milo slightly. The cat opened one eye, looked annoyed at being disturbed, and closed it again. He's fluffy. He purrs. He likes to cuddle. What's not to love? Professor Dwin was taking notes on her datapad with 3 of her 4 arms. Mr. Wheeler, you mentioned purring. What exactly is that? As if on cue, Milo began to vibrate. A low, rumbling sound came from his chest, steady and rhythmic, like a tiny engine. Several students flinched at the noise. That's purring, Ben said. Cats do it when they're happy or comfortable. Sometimes when they're hungry, too. It's basically how they tell you they're in a good mood. It sounds like a warning growl, Boro said suspiciously. Nope, totally the opposite. It means he likes where he is. Ben looked at Rilla, who was still watching Milo with wide eyes. You want to pet him? He's really soft. Rilla's ears shot straight up. Touch the apex predator. He won't hurt you. He's friendly with everyone. Rilla looked at Professor Dwin, who nodded slowly. This is educational, I suppose. With trembling paws, Rilla reached out toward Milo. The cat opened his eyes and watched her approach. His pupils were round and relaxed. Not the thin hunting slits from before that Rilla's paw touched Milo's fur. The cat's purring got louder. Oh, Rilla said softly. Oh, he is very soft. See? Totally harmless, Ben said. Milo stretched and rubbed his head against Rilla's paw. The small Fenari made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a sob. The predator accepts me, she whispered. It is showing me affection. Cats are picky about who they like, Ben explained. If Milo is being nice to you, it means he's decided you're okay. Boro watched this exchange with a mixture of confusion and suspicion. And what happens when the predator decides someone is not okay? Milo's ears suddenly swiveled toward Boro. His eyes locked onto the large Gelden. Boro went very still. For a long moment, cat and alien stared at each other. Then Milo yawned, showing every single one of his sharp little teeth, and deliberately turned his back on Boro. That means he thinks you're boring, Ben said with a grin. The class burst in nervous laughter. Even Professor Dwin made a sound that might have been amusement, but Boro did not laugh. He had seen something in the cat's eyes during that brief stare, a cold intelligence, an ancient hunter's assessment. The creature had looked at him and decided he was not worth killing. Boro was not sure if he should feel relieved or insulted. Professor Dwin had taught at the Galactic Academy for 43 years. She had lectured about creatures that could melt steel with their breath. She had shown videos of predators that could run faster than spacecraft. She had written papers about monsters that haunted the nightmares of 100 worlds. None of it had prepared her for watching a small orange cat knead its paws on a student's lap while making a sound like a broken engine. Why is it doing that with its feet? She asked, all 4 arms gesturing at Milo. Ben looked down at his cat, who had somehow migrated from his lap to Rilla's. The Fenari sat perfectly still, too afraid to move, while Milo pushed his paws against her legs in a slow rhythm. That's called kneading, Ben explained. Kittens do it when nursing from their mothers. Adult cats do it when they feel safe and happy. It means he really likes you, Rilla. Rilla's enormous ears twitched. The apex predator likes me. Seems that way. A strange expression crossed Rilla's face, something between terror and pride. The deadliest creature she had ever encountered had chosen her as its favorite. Professor Dwin circled the pair slowly, recording everything on her datapad. Mr. Wheeler, I would like you to give the class a proper presentation. Tell us everything about the relationship between humans and these creatures. Sure, Ben said. He stood up and walked to the front of the room, leaving Milo curled up in Rilla's lap. So, cats have lived with humans for about 10,000 years. We're not totally sure when it started, but the oldest evidence comes from a place called Cyprus. Were the early cats as deadly as this one? Boro asked. Way deadlier, actually. Milo is a pampered house cat. Wild cats and early domestic cats were lean, mean hunting machines. But humans saw them catching mice and thought, hey, this is useful. Let's keep them around. Ben pulled out his own datapad, and connected it to the classroom display. Images appeared on the holographic screen, cats of all colors and sizes. Today, there are over 70 different breeds of domestic cats. Some are big, some are small. Some have flat faces, some have no fur at all. But they're all descended from the same wild ancestors. He swiped to a new image. A photograph of a cat sleeping inside a tiny cardboard box, its body twisted into an impossible position. This is what most cats do with their time, Ben said. Sleep in weird places. The class murmured in confusion. Another image, a cat wearing a tiny hat shaped like a shark. Sometimes we dress them up. You put costumes on the predator. Professor Dwin said. They usually hate it, but the pictures are really funny. Another image, a cat being cradled like a baby in human arms. We carry them around like this. We call it holding them like a baby. Rilla looked down at Milo, then back at the screen. You treat the killing machine like an infant, pretty much. My mom has one cat that she carries everywhere. His name is Whiskers, and he weighs about 6 kilograms. She talks to him like he's her actual child. The class sat in stunned silence. Boro finally spoke. I do not understand you humans. You take an apex predator, bring it into your home, dress it in humiliating outfits, and speak to it as if it were your offspring. Why does the creature not simply kill you? Ben thought about it for a moment. I think because they know we love them. Cats are smart enough to understand that we care about them. We feed them, shelter them, keep them warm and safe. In return, they give us companionship. And dead animals, Rilla added quietly. She was now gently stroking Milo's back, growing braver with each passing minute. Yeah, that too, Ben admitted. They bring us gifts because they think we're bad at hunting. It's actually kind of sweet if you think about it. Sweet, Professor Dwin repeated. The predator believes its human is incompetent and needs feeding. This is considered sweet. Humans find it endearing, Ben said. Our pets worry about us. A student in the back row raised a tentacle. Do the cats ever attack humans? Ben nodded. Sometimes. Cats can scratch and bite, especially when they're playing or when they get overstimulated. Most cat owners have scars. You bear scars from your companion predator, the student said. And you continue to keep it. Of course. It's just part of having a cat. You accept the scratches because the love is worth it. Professor Dwin stopped recording. She lowered her datapad and stared at Ben with all of her compound eyes. That, she said slowly, is perhaps the most human thing I have ever heard. What do you mean? You form bonds that defy logic. You accept pain as a price for affection. You look at a deadly creature and see not a threat, but a friend. She shook her head slowly. Your species is remarkable, Mr. Wheeler. Ben shrugged. We just really like animals. A soft meow came from Rilla's lap. Milo had woken up and was looking around the room with sleepy eyes. He spotted Ben and meowed again louder. He wants food, Ben said. I usually give him a treat around this time. He walked over and pulled a small bag from his pocket. The moment Milo saw it, his whole body tensed with excitement. Watch this, Ben said. He held up a tiny fish-shaped treat. Milo sit. The cat sat immediately, his eyes locked on the treat. Shake. Milo lifted one paw and placed it in Ben's hand. Good boy. Ben gave him the treat. Milo devoured it in one bite and immediately demanded more. The class watched in amazement. The apex predator obeyed commands for food. You have trained it, Professor Dwin said. The untamable creature has been trained. Cats can learn tricks if they want to, Ben said. The trick is making them want to. Food usually helps. Suddenly, a loud alarm began to blare. Red emergency lights flashed across the ceiling. The classroom doors slammed shut with a heavy clang. Professor Dwin's datapad buzzed with an urgent alert. Her face went pale as she read it. What is it? Ben asked. Containment breach, Professor Dwin said. Something has escaped from the xenozoology lab. The class erupted into frightened whispers that Milo's ears rotated toward the ventilation shaft above them. His eyes went wide. His fur stood up along his spine. Something was coming. Fear has a smell. Most species cannot detect it, but cats can. Milo's nose twitched as the scent of panic flooded the classroom. 30 aliens were suddenly terrified, their bodies pumping out stress chemicals that made the air taste sharp and electric. But there was something else too, a new smell drifting through the ventilation system. Something wrong. Milo did not know what it was, but his instincts told him it was prey. Professor Dwin was reading the emergency alert out loud. Her voice trembled. A Scythian razor worm has escaped from containment. All personnel are advised to remain in sealed rooms until security resolves the situation. Was a razor worm? Ben asked. Boro answered, his purple skin now almost white with fear. A parasitic predator from a Class 5 death world. It is about half a meter long, segmented, with mandibles that can cut through bone. It hunts by sensing body heat. It can travel through ventilation systems, Professor Dwin added. It is designed for enclosed spaces. We are trapped in here with it. Students began to panic. Some ran to the sealed doors and pounded on them. Others huddled together in the corners. Rilla pulled her legs up onto her chair, making herself as small as possible. Everyone stay calm, Ben said. His voice was steady. Stay calm, Boro shouted. There is a razor worm in the vents above us. It will drop into this room and kill us all. Panicking won't help. Ben looked around the room, assessing the situation. How long until security gets here? Professor Dwin checked her datapad. The xenozoology lab is on the other side of the building. Security teams are responding, but it could take 10 to 15 minutes. A lot can happen in 15 minutes, Ben muttered. Milo jumped down from Rilla's lap. He walked slowly toward the center of the room, his body low to the ground, his tail straight out behind him. Every line of his body was tense. Rilla watched him with wide eyes. What is the cat doing? Hunting posture, Ben said quietly. He senses something. Milo stopped directly beneath the main ventilation grate. He sat down and stared upward, completely motionless except for the tip of his tail, which twitched back and forth like a metronome. He knows where it is, Professor Dwin breathed. The predator knows. A faint scratching sound came from inside the vent. Metal against metal. Something was crawling through the darkness above them. The students went silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Milo did not look away from the grate. Mr. Wheeler, Professor Dwin whispered. Can your creature fight a razor worm? Ben did not answer immediately. He was watching Milo, seeing the transformation that had come over his lazy house cat. The softness was gone. The sleepy contentment had vanished. In its place was something ancient and lethal. Milo has never fought anything bigger than a squirrel, Ben admitted. But cats are natural pest hunters. If there's something threatening his territory, he trailed off as the scratching sound got louder. Milo's ears flattened against his skull. Everyone moved to the back of the room, Ben said, slowly and quietly. Do not run. The students obeyed. They crept toward the rear wall, pressing themselves against it. Professor Dwin guided them with her 4 arms, keeping them calm. Ben stayed where he was, a few meters behind Milo. Ben, Rilla whispered from the back of the room. You should move too. I'm not leaving my cat. The scratching stopped. Silence filled the room. Then the ventilation grate exploded downward. The razor worm dropped from the ceiling in a blur of glistening segments. It was exactly as Boro had described. Half a meter of muscular body, covered in hard plates, with mandibles that gleamed like polished knives. IT hit the floor and immediately raised its head, sensing the heat signatures in the room. 30 warm bodies huddled against the far wall. But between the razor worm and its prey stood a small orange cat. The razor worm turned toward Milo. It was 3 times his size. Its mandibles clicked together hungrily. Milo, no, Ben breathed, but Milo did not retreat. Instead, he arched his back and hissed, a sound that seemed far too loud and far too threatening to come from such a small creature. The razor worm hesitated. IT had hunted across 2 worlds. It had killed creatures 10 times its size, but had never encountered anything that stood its ground and challenged it. Milo's pupils were thin slits of pure black. His claws extended, razor-sharp points pressing into the floor. His tail puffed up to twice its normal size. The razor worm lunged. Milo moved faster. He dodged to the side and struck with his front paw, claws raking across the razor worm's side. The creature screeched and twisted, trying to catch him with its mandibles, but Milo was already gone. The cat circled, staying low, waiting for another opening. The aliens watched in stunned silence. The pampered house pet, the fluffy companion who slept 18 hours a day and demanded belly rubs, was fighting a monster, and he was winning. The razor worm lunged again. Milo leaped over it and landed on its back, sinking his claws into the gaps between its armored plates. The creature thrashed wildly, but Milo held on. "Finish it," Ben whispered. Milo bit down on the razor worm's nerve cluster, right behind its head. The creature went stiff. Then it collapsed. Milo jumped off the corpse and shook himself, fluffing out his fur. He looked at the dead razor worm with obvious disdain, then turned and trotted back to Ben, meowing loudly. "Good boy," Ben said, his voice shaking slightly. "Very good boy." Milo rubbed against his legs and began to purr. Nobody moved for a very long time. The razor worm lay dead on the classroom floor, its armored body still and silent. Standing over it, cleaning blood from his paws with casual licks, was an orange tabby cat who weighed less than 5 kilograms. Rilla was the first to speak. Her voice came out as a tiny squeak. "Did that just happen?" "It happened," Boros said. He had not blinked in almost a minute. The cat killed the razor worm. Professor Dwin stared at the scene, all 4 of her arms hanging limp at her sides. Her scientific mind was trying to process what she had witnessed. The impossible had happened right in front of her eyes. Ben knelt down and scratched Milo behind the ears. "You scared me, buddy. Don't do that again." Milo meowed at him, clearly demanding treats for his heroic performance. "You are concerned for the predator," Professor Dwin said slowly. "The creature just killed a Class 5 Deathworld monster, and you are worried about its safety." "He's my cat," Ben said simply. "Of course I'm worried about him." The classroom doors suddenly burst open. A security team rushed in, led by a massive Morvani reptilian in heavy armor. His scales were dark green, his eyes were yellow, and he carried a weapon that looked like it could punch holes in starships. "Everyone stay back," he bellowed. "Where is the razor worm?" Ben pointed at the corpse on the floor. "Already taken care of." The security chief, his name tag read Chief Gala, stared at the dead creature. Then he stared at Ben. Then he stared at the orange cat, who was now chasing his own tail in lazy circles. "What happened here?" Chief Gala demanded. "The cat killed it," Professor Dwin said. "The cat?" "Yes." Chief Gala looked at Milo again. The cat had given up on his tail and was now batting at a piece of debris from the broken ventilation grate. "That cat," Chief Gala said. "That fluffy orange thing is a Terran Felidae," Professor Dwin said. "An apex predator from Earth. It sensed the razor worm before any of us did, positioned itself to intercept, and eliminated the threat in approximately 8 seconds. 8 seconds, Chief Gala repeated. "I was counting." The security team exchanged uncertain glances. They had rushed here expecting a fight for survival. Instead, they found a classroom full of shaken students and a dead monster with bite marks on its neck. One of the security officers approached the razor worm's body carefully. He scanned it with a handheld device. Clean kill. Severed the primary nerve bundle. This thing died instantly. The cat knew exactly where to bite, Boros said. He sounded like he was having a religious experience. It knew the weak point. Cats are instinctive hunters, Ben explained. They go for the neck. It's just what they do. Chief Gala turned to Ben with new respect in his yellow eyes. "Human, your animal just saved this entire classroom. The razor worm would have killed everyone here before we arrived." "Milo's a good boy," Ben said, as if that explained everything. The security chief shook his massive head. "I have heard stories about Deathworlders. I did not believe most of them. But now," he looked at Milo, who had found a sunny spot near the window and was settling down for a nap. "Now I think the stories do not tell the half of it." Professor Dwin stepped forward. "Chief Gala, I would like to officially document this incident. The human's companion animal demonstrated capabilities that contradict our understanding of domesticated species." "Document whatever you want," Chief Gala said. "I need to report to my superiors that a house pet did my job better than my entire team could have." He turned and marched out of the room. His security team followed, carefully carrying the razorworm's body for disposal. The classroom fell quiet again. Rilla slowly approached the spot where Milo was sleeping. She sat down on the floor beside him, her enormous ears drooping with exhaustion and relief. "He protected us," she said softly. "The predator protected us. That's what cats do," Ben said. "They protect their territory. And right now, this classroom is his territory. But we are not his family," Rilla said. "We are strangers. Doesn't matter. You were in his space. That made you his responsibility." Rilla reached out and gently touched Milo's fur. The cat opened one eye, saw it was her, and closed it again with a contented sigh. "He still likes me," Rilla whispered. "Apparently you're part of his group now," Ben said with a smile. Boro had been silent for a long time. He finally spoke, his voice subdued. "I owe the creature my life. We all do." "You don't owe Milo anything," Ben said. "He doesn't think like that. He saw a threat, and he dealt with it. That's just who he is." "Then I owe you," Boro said, "for bringing him here, for proving me wrong about everything I thought I knew." Professor Dwin cleared her throat. "I believe this concludes our lesson on apex predators." Class dismissed. Nobody moved. "Actually," she added, "I think we could all use some time to process what happened. Mr. Wheeler, would you be willing to stay and answer more questions? I suspect the students have many." Ben looked at Milo, peacefully asleep in the sunlight, with Rilla gently stroking his fur. "Yeah," he said, "I can stay." Word travels fast on a space station that by the end of the day, everyone at the Galactic Academy had heard the story. A human had brought his pet cat to class. The cat had killed a razorworm. The human had called the killer a good boy and given it treats. Students from other departments started finding excuses to walk past classroom 7 Delta. They wanted to see the human. They wanted to see the beast. What they found was Ben Wheeler sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by a circle of curious aliens, while Milo lay on his back demanding belly rubs from anyone brave enough to touch him. "So the cat enjoys being touched on its vulnerable stomach?" a tall Nellari student asked, her antenna twitching with disbelief. "Some cats do," Ben said. "Some don't. Milo loves it. He'll lie like that for hours if you keep rubbing." Rilla was demonstrating. Her small paws moved gently across Milo's fluffy belly while the cat purred loud enough to vibrate the floor. "The death machine is vibrating again," the Nellari noted. "Purring," Ben corrected. "It means he's happy." Professor Dwin had given up any pretense of teaching. She sat at her desk, recording everything on her datapad, adding notes and observations for what she suspected would become the most important research paper of her career. "Mr. Wheeler," she said, "you mentioned earlier that cats are not the only apex predators humans have domesticated. Can you tell us more?" Ben grinned. The questions had been coming for hours, and he was happy to answer all of them. "Dogs are probably the most famous," he said. "They're descended from wolves. Humans domesticated them maybe 15,000 years ago. We bred them for different jobs: hunting, herding, guarding, companionship." "Wolves," Boro said. He had pulled up an image on his datapad. "These creatures hunt in coordinated packs and can bring down prey many times their size." "Yeah, and now we teach them to fetch tennis balls and beg for treats." The class murmured nervously. "Then there are horses," Ben continued. "Big animals, very strong, can kill a person with one kick. We ride on their backs. You sit on the predator. Horses aren't predators, actually. They're prey animals, but they're still dangerous. Doesn't stop us from climbing on them." Professor Dwin was writing frantically. "Falcons," Ben added. "Birds of prey with razor-sharp talons. We train them to hunt for us. It's called falconry. Very old tradition. You command aerial predators," the Nellari said faintly. "Some people keep snakes as pets. Or spiders. Or alligators, though that's less common." The room went very quiet. "What," Boro said slowly, "is an alligator?" Ben pulled up an image on his datapad and showed it to the class. The alien students recoiled in horror at the massive reptile with its armored body and tooth-filled jaws. "They've been around since the dinosaurs," Ben said cheerfully. "Some people keep small ones as pets. The big ones can grow to 4 or 5 meters long. And humans keep these as companions, Professor Dwin said. Not many, but yeah, some do. Rilla had stopped rubbing Milo's belly. She looked up at Ben with her enormous eyes. Is there any creature from Earth that humans do not try to befriend? Ben thought about it. Mosquitoes, maybe? Nobody likes those. I need to know what a mosquito is, Boros said, and I also need to know why I need to know. Tiny flying insects that drink blood. Very annoying, but harmless compared to most things. Professor Dwin saved her notes and set down her datapad. She looked at Ben with something close to awe. Mr. Wheeler, I began this day planning to teach my students that apex predators cannot be domesticated. You have thoroughly disproved my entire curriculum. Sorry about that, Ben said. Do not apologize. This is exactly what education should be. The discovery that everything we thought we knew was wrong. She stood up and addressed the class. I am officially revising my lesson. Apex predators can be domesticated, but only by species dangerous enough to earn their respect. What does that mean? Rilla asked. It means that humans are not merely Deathworlders. They are Deathworlders who look at the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy and see friends. Professor Dwin shook her head slowly. It is terrifying. It is beautiful. It is utterly, incomprehensibly human. Milo chose that moment to yawn loudly, showing all his teeth. Then he rolled over and demanded more belly rubs. Rilla obliged immediately. Professor, she said quietly, I think I want to visit Earth someday. That would be extremely dangerous, Boro pointed out. I know, Rilla smiled. The first real smile anyone had seen from her all day. But any planet where people cuddle apex predators and call them good boys, I think it must be an extraordinary place. Ben stood up and stretched. Milo jumped to his feet and wound between his legs, meowing. Time to go home, buddy, Ben said. He scooped the cat up and draped him over his shoulder like a furry orange scarf. Thanks for having us, Professor. This was fun. Fun, Professor Dwin repeated. You witnessed your pet kill a deadly monster, and you call it fun. Well, yeah, that's the most exciting thing Milo's done in years. Usually he just sleeps. Ben waved goodbye to his new friends and walked out of the classroom. Milo looked back at the aliens, blinked slowly, the cat equivalent of a kiss, and then turned away. Professor Dwin watched them go. Then she opened her academic database and began typing a new entry. Human domestication capabilities, she wrote. Classification, impossible to quantify. Note, do not underestimate any creature a human calls harmless. They are probably lying. Recommendation, if a human offers to show you their pet, prepare for anything. She paused, then added one final line. Further note, the pets are usually friendly. The humans made sure of that. She saved the file and leaned back in her chair. Outside the window, the stars stretched on forever. A galaxy full of wonders and terrors. And somewhere out there, humans were making friends with all of them.